Welcome to the Traveller 2025 Mayday event. I'm your host, Frank Succardi of CyborgPrime Games. Today I am happy to introduce Christopher Griffen, one of the writers over at Mongoose Publishing. Welcome, Mr. Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Frank.
It's been a while since we last talked. What are you up to these days?
Oh, just getting ready for a big life change. I'm going. I actually quit my job in tech so that I could move to England to work with
Awesome.
for a while, and I'll be there for several months, and then hopefully beyond that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let's talk more about that in a minute. But in the meantime, why don't you catch us up on some of the projects you've been up to since we last chatted? Like
Last year.
Yeah, it's been a year. Last time I spoke to you, I think you were talking about the first Riftbreaker was about to come out or had just come out.
I think it was about to come out. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about those. You wrote the comics, the Traveller comics. How did that come about? How was that even conceived? And what were your ideas about the comics to begin with?
Right. So a few years ago, out of the blue, Matt sent an email to me, Gear, and Martin. That's Martin Doherty and Gear Lanaskog. Gear, I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. It's just said, there's a comic company that's interested in making a Traveller comic. Are any of you interested? And I jumped on it. Like, I was basically the guy that tried to jump in front of the other writers and said, they don't know what they're doing. This is all mine. They can't have it. It's mine. Now, they could very well have pitched in as well. But, I have no say on that. I would love to see other voices, but when Matt said that, I was all over it. I wanted that job because I love comics. I've grown up since I probably got my first comic book when I was 6 years old and have collected them and read them almost every year since. And so the chance to actually make some, and they would be Traveller oriented. I wanted that job.
Did you have an idea that you wanted to pitch right away, or did you have to kind of cogitate on it for a while, or?
It took me
Did
about.
They have the idea?
No. They've been my ideas. That's been one of the great things about working on Traveller, like both with Matt and with Harry Marcos at Marcosia. So Matt at Mongoose, Harry Marcos at Marcosia. They really give you a lot of creative license and trust you to do these things. I don't know if that trust is appropriate, but they do give you a lot of creative freedom. So, no, I came up with the concepts for the Traveller comics myself, and I thought the first one's got to be based on a free or far trader. So I started probably in 15 minutes, I had the basics of a story in mind, and I threw together an outline for 4 issues because that's sort of an industry standard. You'll sometimes see 6-issue miniseries, sometimes 12, but 4 is sort of a common standard. And so I 4 issues of 24 pages each to tell this story, and we got to work on it. And the story is called Far Trader, just named after the ship.
Right.
And we got that going. We got an artist who does a lot of Traveller work to come in and work on that, Xavier, he's French. Xavier Bernard, I believe. And Xavier, I love his work. It's very different. It has a very European look to it. And he did the first 2 issues of Far Trader. And then it just got to be too much for him because Xavier does everything. He does the layout. He does the initial
Thinking or whatever.
Yeah, artists do things electronically now. Some don't. Some do it with pen and paper, pencil and paper. That's traditional. But really, you can get a Marcom. I think it's called a Marcom. No, there are these tablets that you can use to do your illustrations. And he does it all, right? The black and white part, the layout, the color, and that's time consuming. And
Yeah.
it got to be a little rough. And so we got a different artist to come in. Andrea Corsi came in to do the last 2 issues of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked with a team. Matteo is his inker, and inker by really a finisher, because Andrea also does his stuff on a tablet, and then a colorist, which was Francesca. And then Ian comes in and letters the comics. Ian letters all their comics, and he's quite good at it. And it's an underrepresented career, the comic book letterer. It can be done badly. You don't know when it's done well. You just appreciate it, and you take it for granted. When it's done badly, you notice. So Ian does a nice job on the lettering, and then Harry publishes them. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And have they been pretty well received?
Yeah, mostly. It depends where you look. I've seen good and bad comments. I
can't please everybody.
Yeah, I've got a daughter who's a screenwriter, and she says never look at the internet for comments on your work. You should never, and I always do. And I've learned the first couple times I've taken it like when someone said they don't really care for your work. It's like insult, a slap in the face. Yeah. I want to hunt them down and kill them. No, it's. But yeah, now it doesn't really bother me. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks, and mostly pretty good. And some people really excited about it.
That's okay. I didn't write it for you.
I wrote it for the Traveller audience. Far Trading I wrote to try to introduce the Traveller universe. So I put it in Aramis subsector in the Spinward Marches. It's very typical, the idea of buying low and selling high, but I don't get into the mechanics of trade. That would be boring in a comic book. One of the books I read on writing comics was by Denny O'Neil, which people who know comics well will know that name. He's famous for, he's written a lot of DC comics in his history, and he wrote a lot of Batman. And one of the things he says is comics are about action. Keep it moving. And so I try to live by that when putting these together. But I wanted to tell a quintessential Traveller story. So it's in a trade ship. It's going into dangerous territories. They get attacked by Vargr Corsairs. They got a dubious trade mission. It gives them the opportunity. One of the things about the Traveller universe is, when you've played a bit, Frank.
A little bit.
You know that players get in these situations where there's just this temptation to do some bad stuff. Like, I'll take that job that might cause pain and suffering from this group of people. I don't know them. Well, it doesn't bother me. So the travelers will do underhanded stuff, and I wanted to kind of tell a story about a group that's put in that situation where something either way there's some moral ambiguity. Either way, whatever they do, it's going to help some people, it's going to hurt some people, and then they got decisions based on that.
Yeah, I had some players. I wouldn't call them, they weren't murder hobos, but they did take some revenge on like a crooked sheriff on a backwards planet and made the law enforcement guy look the other way while the others drowned him in the creek. It's like,
oh yeah, I've run a lot of, and I've had them. Well, you got your players when, like, I had one where I was doing Pirates of Dernax, and if you're familiar with that setting, there's a planet called Oma, and there's these people from this planet. Their primary occupation is raiding other planets. And there was a scene with some Oman raiders, and I got in the head of one of my players, because after it was done, he executed a couple of them, and I thought, ooh, that is morally reprehensible. But I know I got you when you were that pissed off that you had to murder my NPCs.
Right. I was like, well, I didn't see that coming. I thought they were just going to rob him or something.
I didn't know we were doing atrocities or genocide here, but okay.
Oh, you're researching a mutagenic bomb? Okay. Like we played Death Station, and they stole the secret murder drug recipe, and Yeah, and their own professor, their own scholar on the ship is like trying to reverse engineer it and make it improvements on this combat drug. And I mean, it's like, my God, you guys are horrible. Because they want to sell it to the highest bidder.
Of course.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, man.
It's really, when they do the right thing, I'm like, did you guys not see the profit opportunity here, or are you just being good
Wait,
guys?
what just happened? Yeah, man, it's funny. So how did you get the idea of doing? How did you go from doing the Far Trader comic to doing Riftbreaker? What was the
So Riftbreaker
kind of segue to that?
Yeah, so yeah, that one, I started thinking, okay, you did a trader. One of the iconic aspects of Traveller are the starships, and we got to have one in a scout ship. If you're going to do two stories and never publish another Traveller comic, people have to have seen and gotten intimately familiar with a Free or Far Trader and the Type S Scout. So I thought about what could we do with the Type S Scout, and I came up with a story about a guy who, Revo Sanderson, I gave him what I picture like my Flash Gordon style name, who was a distraught X-boat pilot, or X-boat astrogator, really, because right, they don't really pilot them, they just float there and they jump. And he, being in an X-boat, does bad things to your mind because you're alone a lot, and human beings are not designed to be alone all the time. So I had this guy kind of on the edge of suicide, and I thought, but one of the great things about a scout career is when it's over, you have the shot to get a detached duty scout, right? There's another concept I wanted to introduce to the comics. The idea of getting this scout ship you get to use, but it's really not yours, and they can recall you as necessary, and they use you for passive intelligence too. Wherever you're flying, I assume that ship is recording wherever it goes and sending that info to the scout service. So I want to tell that story. He puts together a group of buddies and decides to cross the Great Rift in a Type S scout ship. How would you do that? There are these giant gaps of 9 parsecs, and you're going to do it with a 2 parsec jump ship. So I came up with a conceit by which someone thinks that's possible, but let's just see. And so the story is about their epic crossing of the Great Rift, sort of like it's an explorer's yarn, right?
Right, kind of like crossing the Sargasso Sea or something, or
right, yeah, right. Or Magellan or Francis Drake, one of the great explorers, Columbus. I don't, well, that's not politically correct to mention him, but some of these great world travelers of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance era. Let's go into that with these guys, except they're like the thing is, though, about Travelers, that one of the great aspects of the game is, it's not like Dungeons and Dragons, zero to hero kind of thing. It's really it's normal people in extraordinary circumstances. Your characters usually don't come out that great when you roll them up, unless your 2 die 6 are really generous to you. And the kind of characters I'm envisioning for this are like average characters. Revo had an average career. He's not Superman, or he's not Super Scout or anything like that. And the people he brings along with him, actually, one of them's pretty good. I won't relay which of the other 2 main characters are excellent. We'll let readers determine that for themselves. But the idea is that these are real characters from someone's Traveller campaign thrust into a comic book story. And so it's very different from Far Trader. Far Trader's got this kind of driven tour de force style to it. And in Riftbreaker, these guys they screw up a lot. They make mistakes.
They're more seated in the pants, or
yeah, they got a plan, but sometimes it goes awry. And I think that the characters are a little warmer because of that. You can associate with these characters, and I'm hoping to get along with that. Riftbreaker, I feel like I could write that for 100 issues. Like
I was gonna say, like, how do you wrap that up in 4 issues? Like,
you don't. It ends on a spoiler alert. It's going to end on a cliffhanger, sort of
ambiguous ending.
Yeah, and then it needs a volume 2 and a volume 3, and they aren't going to get across the rift in the first 4 issue series. They will get to somewhere dramatically significant. And then it's gone well with Marcosia, so I'm anticipating more. I've already laid out the first contract was for 12 issues, and the first 4 issues were Far Trader, and then Riftbreaker is the next 4, and then there's a Far Trader sequel called
Mm-hmm.
Far Trader Insurrection, which is the second series, and we're working on that already. The script of the first issue is in the hands of the art team, and it's being worked upon as we speak. And
Wow, cool.
yeah, and then so a Riftbreaker follow-up would be part of the next 12. A a third 4-issue series and the Far Trader series, and then that wraps up Far Trader. I only want to do that for 12 issues. And then I had a little poll on the Mongoose website for what people would like to see next. And the one that got the most votes, and it was kind of close, was Vargr Corsairs. So I've got a story in mind to tell about a group of Vargr Corsairs.
Mm,
So the Vargr will be
cool.
the totally, or most of the cast will be Vargr.
Mm-hmm.
I might put a token human in the group for relatability or something.
Right. Comic relief.
Comic relief, yeah. And so that they can, the Vargr can be
What's up with this human?
exactly. What's up with these primates?
All right, yeah.
So difficult to work with.
Their hands are delicious, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So that's the plan then. Vargr comic down the line.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Wrap up. Yeah, so depending on how quickly we can get it done. I wish the comics could come out faster, but it's just it hasn't
A lot of production work.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get better at it as we go.
Mm-hmm.
But they can always go back, and when Riftbreaker 2 is pretty close to being done now. And so once that's out, we should be able to hopefully move a little faster on it. Or people can always go back and reread number 1 and then read number 2 when it comes out.
Right. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's see. Heard you are wrapping up Singularity, the Singularity campaign.
Yeah. So that took a long time. It probably longer than it needed to. But I wrote 4 books. And so to that point, it was 260,000 words, I believe.
Wow.
It was a source book and I wrote it's a campaign in 3 acts, and it's called Singularity. And it deals with a lot of canonical things and pushes the limits on a lot of other things. And it deals with 2 Traveller technologies, artificial intelligence and conscious intelligence, and puts them into some areas that that you might not expect. And it bends and breaks a little bit of Traveller canon and continuity, and threatens to destroy your Traveller campaign. And alternate your history in interesting ways. I think anyway. We'll see what we think. Hopefully, it's well received. It is epic in scope, and I can imagine it getting you about as involved as like running Pirates or Dranax would be. It should consume about that much of your resources in an effort to run this campaign.
Wow. Would you say, let me think, without giving a lot away, or anything away.
I'm trying to be careful about that, but every year I say a little more, because I think we've talked about this for 3 years now. That's about how long it's taking me almost 2 years to write. So
Matt mentioned there would be opportunities for people to, choose sides or make moral, judgments about situations, and sounds pretty engaging.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's so I've written a lot of adventures for Mongoose, and when you write an adventure, it's always this challenge. You want it to be a sandbox. You want the players to have agency and be able to make decisions, and that is always present. I feel like adventures very typically have a railroad written into them quite a bit, where players do this, 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 and this, and they don't have any leeway to steer off the course. I try to write them in a way, adventures where there is freedom to make decisions and at least provide some definite paths where decisions are made. But really, whenever you run an adventure or a campaign, there's the chances of it going off the rails and becoming something entirely different. And then
Mm-hmm.
each adventure or chapter or whatever in it has the potential to be source material rather than something that you run the players through. So when writing Singularity, I tried to. It's got much like Pirates of Dranax. It's got 10 base adventures that you can run, and then a bunch of some patron opportunities, and a bunch of opportunities to take it off the rails and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to write it in a way that it's sandboxy in parts, but then parts of it, there's a story to be told, and you get thrust into it.
Mm-hmm.
I I I made an earnest effort to keep it open so players always feel agency. And
Right.
Matt talked about taking sides. It's difficult to write a campaign where I mean, it would have been at least 1.5 times the size if I really completely wrote it. Like, what if the players do this?
Mm-hmm.
I took a cue from Gareth Hanrahan and his Pirates of Dranax, where he kind of wrote, if they don't want to pirate ships, they could do something else in this environment. They
Mm-hmm.
could be traders or diplomats or whatever. You could do something similar in this campaign as well, where you take it off the rails and do something, whatever you want with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely is also designed for that group that wants to go along the narrative, a main narrative track.
Right. Right. All right. Cool. Cool. So do you have any thoughts on the recent Traveller property transfer over to Mongoose?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm really excited for everyone at Mongoose as if you read Mongoose's yearly, what do they call it, State of the Mongoose, you know some things about the company that Matt has talked about, and one of the things he's talked about is they do things very collaboratively, very communally. They
Mm-hmm.
made the decision to buy the rights when Mark made them available, and
Mm-hmm.
it cost them a bit, right? So it was a sacrifice on their part, and Matt is moving that they're moving that company towards employee ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be a group decision, and I'm sure it was. I'm sure it wasn't easy to make that decision, or maybe it was. I mean, for me, it would have
Mm-hmm.
been. I would have said yes. Whatever I got to do.
Can we do it? Then let's do it.
Yeah, mortgage the house,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, I think it's great. I think Mongoose has been a lot of, those of us who know the history of the game have seen it pass hands several times since GDW closed its doors in 1996 or whatever it was. And each one has contributed something to the effort. But I
Mhm.
really, I don't mean to offend any of the other holders of the copyright, but in my opinion, Mongoose has done more with the IP, with the intellectual property, and taken it more places and given it more potential, given it more life than anyone else past the GDW era.
Mm.
I'm excited to see where they go with it next, and I intend to be a part of it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was mentioning to Matt that this game has, the fact that it's been around for 50 years shows it has staying power, and
Yes.
that I thought that Mongoose were good stewards of the product line, because in making the Mongoose version, they didn't go too far away from the heart of Traveller.
No.
And so to me, that was like kind of showing the community that they don't want to, they're not trying to corrupt Traveller or make it, something new or weird or whatever. It's just they're trying to respect it but carry it forward. It's got to stay competitive, and it has to change with the times as times are changing. So
yeah,
and I think they've done fine with that.
Yeah, it does and it doesn't, right? The original game was based on Mark, Lauren, and Frank and other contributors' experiences with and love of science fiction from the 40s through 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Traveller is very much like that. Science fiction changed in the ensuing 40 plus years that the game continues to exist, and you can either continue to value it as a somewhat nostalgic look at sci-fi and participate in that environment, or you can advance it to the next stage. And Mark kind of did that himself with Traveller 5.
Right.
Mark and his group of contributors massively advanced the technology and ideas involved. Mark's never wanted, as far as I can tell, I can't speak for Mark, but as far as I can tell, Mark Miller never wanted handcuffs on the game. He wanted you to be able to take it places. So you see that in T5 with some of the things it introduces, and I think the game's richer for it. You can still make it all about those traditional, like Starship Troopers, your Heinlein, your Asimov with Foundation. You can have those in. But if you want, you can also bring in something that's a little more Ian Banks or Alistair Reynolds and another more even someone like Becky Chambers. If anyone's read her, I highly recommend her work recently. Someone like more current stuff. If you want to bring in more current elements, you can.
Yes, it's a great, what I want to say, like sci-fi gaming framework. You can make your Traveller universe how you like and use as much of the publishers provided stuff as you want or don't want. When you're starting GM, maybe you don't want to figure everything out yourself, and so you rely more on the setting. And then maybe trying to, in my case, like tracking the setting was just like too difficult, and I didn't want to ever have like rules arguments or setting arguments with people. So I'm just like, in my game we just do common sci-fi tropes. I adapt them for Traveller, because people, when they're playing a sci-fi game, they expect robots and aliens and lasers and shields and things like that, and why not? So Traveller allows you to do all that stuff.
Do you do a different trope every time? Do you vary it up? Short stories,
no, but
novellas, are they trilogies? What do you do?
I personally do like episodic things, kind of like self-contained episodes with cliffhangers, and kind of like Star Trek, or like a what I want to say, like a ensemble cast TV show.
I see.
Sometimes it's the focus of this character, and the other characters take a back seat, and it's the story of Chris's character, or
gotcha. So one player gets the focus that day, and it's that's really cool.
And it rotates. The other players are supporting characters, and they're trying to help their friend do the thing, or or there's some sort of interplay, in there, like everybody's tied in and trying to accomplish a goal together, even though they may all come at it from different angles. But there's I try to always put, I love Live Outer Limits, so I always try to put a crazy, didn't see that coming twist at the end. What, we released the vampire, or like so that's just my style, but my background is Traveller and like Champion, so the hero system, which is crunchy but flexible, and another good framework.
Played a little Champions as a teenager. It was fun. Making characters was so fun. That was a mini game in itself. So fun to make a character. And some of the things people came up with were just ridiculous. Like, anyway,
yeah. So, what about how? So you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you're getting ready to go work for Traveller, go work for Mongoose, doing Traveller stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that. How'd that come about? And
so probably a couple years ago, I talked to Matt and I said, I'd seen that the company I was working for, actually I'm still working for them for another 10 days, that they had sabbaticals back then. And then, and I thought, what if Matt would be interested, wonder if he'd let me come over there and work for a while. So I talked to him about it, and he said, yeah, that'd be something good. And so I thought, okay, well, let's let this cook for a while, see if Matt really means it or not. And then some time passed, and then he brought it up, with unsolicited. He brought it up again later on and said, hey, about that sabbatical idea you had, you still want to do that? And I said, I sure do. And it happened in much for various personal reasons. It's happened much. It took much longer to do so than I would have liked, but we're finally doing it. So
Hmm.
in what's today? Today is the 12th. In 12 days, my jet lagged body will be in the offices of Mongoose in Swindon, United Kingdom, starting to work on things. So
Fantastic.
yeah, so I'll be there for.
Have you visited there before? Have you?
Well, I've been to England before. I've been
Uh,
England, Scotland, and but it's been a long time, and I know I have not been to their offices. I have not been to
mhm.
Swindon.
Hope you are partial to pigeons.
Yes, I've seen the reports. Yeah, I'm fine with them. Uh,
Hmm.
I hear that's an issue there.
Sounds like a great place to work, though. They have some. Matt says everybody's got a company car, and they'll teach you how to
Yeah,
drive the car, and they have somebody come and cook lunch every day, and they go see movies, and
no,
sounds like a totally chill place to work.
it sounds like they work hard and play hard,
Hmm.
which sounds great. I hear so I've worked in tech here in Silicon Valley for a long time, and I've got a friend that I sometimes go out and grab drinks with, and I met one of her friends, and she's English, but she's been here for a long time. But she told me,
Hmm.
you're going to love working in England. She said it's different. There's a lot more. It's a lot more cordial, a lot more collegial than it is.
Hmm.
So I'm eager to see if that's the case. I'm assuming it is.
Oh, cool. Do they have the same like 40-hour work week as we do, or?
I believe so. It looks like it from what I have
Mm-hmm.
been in contact with them, and that's fine. I mean, I have in tech, I've had a lot of jobs where I worked remotely all or part of the time, and that's been fine. It is fully in the office at Mongoose, from what I can tell, unless I don't know
Right.
something comes up or something, and that's fine with me. When it's something
Mm-hmm.
you're passionate about, I can totally envision having no problem with that. I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Fantastic. All right. Cool, man. Wish you all the best in your adventure. This sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have some like ideas that you are thinking about bringing with you, Traveler, to
Oh,
Mongoose when you go, or
you.
yeah,
No,
a
yeah,
few?
a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Yeah. Well, Matt's got a project in mind for me that I cannot talk about. It is top secret, and you're probably not
Mm-hmm.
going to hear about it until next year's interview.
All
But
right.
but I'll be excited to talk about it then, if possible. And and I'm looking forward to it. I've already got ideas brewing about it. And then I've got a lot of Traveller ideas to pitch. And if they want me to work on other games like Shield Maidens or any of the other ones that they have, I'd be happy to work on those too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for Traveller, I had a project in the works before I started Singularity, and because I am completely incapable of properly allotting time, I thought, oh, I'll just do it at the same time as I write Singularity, and you can't do that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that would be, I started outlining and wrote Jordani Consulate, which is a book
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like Third Imperium, which describes Third Imperium, if you're familiar with that book that I wrote for Mongoose. It describes the main setting, the Third Imperium, the history, the agencies like the military, the nobility, and other aspects, and then gives you core sector, which
Mm-hmm.
is where capital is, and it's sort of very different from the Spinward Marches. The Spinward Marches is the frontier and a lot of different species, and this kind of adventurous, exciting on the edge of disaster thing. The core is more, so you could relate that to something like Firefly or
Mm-hmm.
you
I
know,
would say the core is like more structured and ordered.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a lot like the Solomani Rim too. It's higher tech. Most worlds have there's a lot of worlds with high population, very high tech. A lot of authoritarianism is something I discovered when writing that book. There's these worlds with high populations have high law levels, high government levels, which provided a lot of provide interesting opportunities that are different than writing something on the Spinward Marches.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like Dune or Foundation or something like that. Maybe a little bit of Star Wars as well when you think Coruscant. Um, So it's a different environment.
Like mega cities and things like that.
Yeah, and all kinds of you want these giant population authoritarian places to be nightmares because it's not exciting to adventure in a utopia. Although I threw some utopias into. They're utopias, but there's always the potential for it to break down and fall and have side effects as well.
Right.
Anyway, I outlined and started to do the same thing for the Jordani, who are fascinating, and I think they deserve their moment in the sun as well. I have a partially developed project on that. It was supposed to kind of come along with Fifth Frontier War. I'm a little late on that, so I don't know if it still happens or not. But I've done some of the work, and if we want to go that direction, I'm ready. Other than that, there's another campaign that Matt has talked about me writing, and it heavily involves trade, which I think needs some an alternative approach. If you've played the trade minigame and use the trade rules, they're cool, but they need mitigation by a referee. Because if you just run around and play, you could play a solo game, but you will be a multi-millionaire really fast if you just make the right decisions, pay attention to what sells well here and there. And it's probably kind of fun, like playing Monopoly or something like that. I've had multiple players in my campaigns that I've run. They're obsessed with the trade game. You could, if their character's not in the story in that moment, I could just set them off and like, why don't you determine what kind of goods are available on this planet that you guys are on? And then they're excited to do that. So the trade game is fun, but to really, if you want it to be dramatic, there needs to be more mitigation, some problems that come up with cargo lots that you buy. I don't think you want it. You want there to be, or maybe you think, oh, look, these advanced electronic goods can sell over here for adding +3 to my die roll over there. But you go there and there's some aspect to the government there where they're like, yeah, we don't
take that. That's black market.
No, yeah. We have something. We have something that will prevent you from doing it that easily. And you don't want to be just a killjoy.
But throwing foils in there is the fun of the adventure.
Right. Yeah. So they can still sell the goods and make the killing, but they got to work for it a little bit and do a little role playing, make some friends in the government, smuggle the stuff in, something.
Right. Grease some palms, get some, work on their advocate roles, try to find loopholes. There's in the law, there's all kinds of opportunities for role playing.
Absolutely, or admin, a highly underrated skill, right? So yeah, I think in this campaign, when I take that one on, I want to start putting together the outline real soon. I would love to do it before I go to England in a few days, but I just not gonna be able to fit it in.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, there's some Singularity follow-ups that I'm working on that I have to finish first. But once I get that outline together. I would like to incorporate some modifications to the trade rules, and then hopefully roll those back into the main rules later on. Because one of the things that you see that pisses off some players and referees of the game is that we keep putting other rules in different books, and then they don't find their way back to the main book. So to have this new rule be part of your campaign, you need to have bought these 17 other books, which is a great marketing plan, by the way. But never mind that. For stuff like trade, I think it would be nice to roll it back into the main rules as well. When someday we do another edition of the core rule book, or at least hint at them. So
yeah, I don't know. I paid $4,000 to Aslan as part of like a trade investment, and they ran off with my money.
Can you believe that? The Aslan of all people, I thought that they had really built on honor.
I thought they had some honor, but no, their honor is as they are as honorable as Dr. Voss himself.
Dr. Voss. Those who don't know, Frank and I have played a little bit together in a campaign, and I got to know his character, Dr. Voss, whom is a character.
I thought it would be fun to play like the worst parts of Dr. Smith and Dr. McKay. Like, Like
Yeah.
if Tuvok and Neelix could be like combined into Tuvix, like I could do that with Dr. Smith and Dr. McKay.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I love the interactions with your ex-wife. Those are hilarious.
She's not my ex-wife. Damn it, that's a dirty rumor started by the GM. That's his crazy fantasy. She's just supposed to be my like scholastic rival.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. I got hooked on the red herring.
Yeah. He just thought it would be funny if we we had a history or something. I was like, no, Dr. Voss is too intolerable. He could never like have a relationship. What are you talking about?
No one would tolerate him.
No one would. He went to the like bar and he was like, that woman over there asked me if I wanted to dunk the cosmic donut. What do you suppose she meant? Yeah. So yeah, that's the GM's way of messing with me.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely attracted my attention.
It's I have an ongoing rivalry with her now. She's trying to present some of the findings that we found on our last expedition as her own work.
Yeah.
Intolerable.
Yeah.
So
not when Dr. Voss has made better scientific research and
exactly
already.
Yeah, but she beat him to the punch, and now he's threatening his grad students. They better take his work and make it into a better paper. When you end up eventually down at Mongoose, what's your plan? You mentioned you might have some editorial work on some other projects.
Yeah, I'm currently editing. I've edited a few adventures from another writer on staff there, and I'm looking at it's Bella, and I'm looking at one of her first big book, and it's I don't want to steal her thunder or anything, but I'm going through it and kind of offering my advice and doing what I love to do, which is collaboration. And I would expect the same in turn. When in fact on Singularity, please take a look. Tell me what we need to change. It is in your capable hands. So I believe that the best work comes from collaboration and listening to other voices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
And after that, we had chatted about it before. One of the things I really love that's come out recently is Randy Dorman's work on the Ocelon.
Mm-hmm.
The Deep and the Dark and the Clans of the Ocelon.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he did it because I'm a huge Ocelon fan and I want to run an Ocelon campaign. And it's a little too close to the heart for me to write that. And I'm so glad he came in and did it because now I want to use his work and go do something along those lines. I think they could use a version of those two books related to either or both the Vargr, like a book on the extents. I don't know what you'd call it. They had the Deep and the Dark, such a dramatic name for a book. After 2 sectors in the Vargr extents. And I think that the Hivers could use that sort of treatment. And I have an area in mind that if we were to do a Hiver approach, like first have a book that details the Hive Federation, and then have a book that details 2 sectors. I think that it's tricky because the core of the Hiver Federation is they have 2 worlds. One was their home world, and one's where they kind of picked to be their main worlds, Glia and Guaran. And but to me, the most exciting adventure is over towards Kukri space. And one sector is Extolian, and I think it's got a lot of potential, and it's almost all Federation. So that would be a nice sector to introduce to really give you in-depth sort of high Federation feel. And the other one is Numbus, which is forward
to the north,
black to north, which has a lot of Kukri space in it and a bunch of other species, and the Hivers are down in the corner. The idea of finally toying around with the Kukri a little bit and that tension between those 2 species if you know the canonical history, there was going to be a lot of war, and the Kukri do not care for the Hivers because they're technically meat eaters. But the Hivers performed a manipulation on them that made them decide to leave the Hive Federation alone. So there is a detente between the two sides. And there's this little corner of Numbus sector, which I think would make for some really exciting campaigns. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to see some rules out for like how to play Hivers, how to integrate them into your game, their culture, like I know there's like, the alien source books, but maybe something that's more of a in-depth, more of an in-depth development, like you're saying, something like Third Imperium, of scope, but about these other races,
Yeah, a lot of their client species have been developed in the very popular Aliens of Charted Space books. And I think those are really cool, well-written materials. Be like kind of assembling that and then creating a bunch more. The Hivers are the master manipulators. They have all these client species working in their federation, and how does that work? Are they manipulating them all? Do they have them doing all the work? Well, they perform upper management and executive roles. What's there? It would be very.
What's it like to have them on your crew? Are they manipulating the crew?
Yeah, are you always asking? Are you, or there was the story of the Ithcler is one of the more popular species that exists in the Hive Federation, and they are this is extreme warrior race, perhaps the most dangerous species in charted space. And they think they're the manipulators. They, according to Dave Nilsson's writing back in Traveller New Era, where they said, "What are you talking about? You think we're being manipulated? They take us around to places and we fight wars, which is our favorite thing to do. Who's manipulating whom here?" So, they're an interesting species, and there are a bunch of other ones as well that could be fun to develop and get I think it's really about the relationships between the various species that could be really fun. Kind of makes me think of Star Trek and the Federation. Well, I mean, it's the High Federation.
Right.
In that you've got all these species, the Vulcans, Andorians, Romulans, etc. Tenuous.
There might be factional friction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, we're trying to negotiate a deal with someone else. We're tired of being in the Federation. Or is that on the edge, or is it in the middle that they want out? Yeah, there's a lot of story potential there and campaign potential. So not to neglect the Vargr, that's a very popular species to play, and dealing and writing a campaign book and sector books related to them would be equally as challenging and interesting. And I think there's only, other than Aliens of Charted Space, there was Valani and Vargr, written way back in the Mega Traveller area by Digest Group Publications. That's only, well, and then the classic Traveller Alien module of the Vargr as well. That is a lot. That's a lot of source material. But there's still a lot that's got to be fleshed out, because and how do you deal with
updated and compiled?
Or incorporate or interpolated into new materials for Mongoose, maybe. And maybe a mechanic to deal with the fact that they're supposed to be so mercurial. Borders are supposed to be changing all the time, which does not suit when you want to publish a book with maps that are static. But really, those borders, you look at the Vargr extents, and it looks like a group of islands if you take a look at Traveller map or something. Those should be changing shape all the time as groups fail and new ones succeed, etc. Nothing should be.
That could be a thing where you expected it to be this way, but when you got there, it was the other way.
Yeah, they completely changed the government. It's not at all what we expected to find.
Right. What do you mean? We've just saw some enemy scouts. Those aren't scouts. They belong here. You're the one enemy territory. You crossed the front line. What? Yes. Yeah, I got pushed back 6 months ago.
Yeah, that should be one of the major approaches to adventuring there.
Yeah, that could be. Oh, what a pain. You never know. Like, Okay, who's in control of this world?
We were there
Friend
6
or
weeks
foe?
ago. Yeah, we were there six
Right,
weeks ago, and there was a religious dictatorship, but they seem like they might have been on the outs. So when we go back, we don't know what to expect.
right, yeah, yeah. That can be fun. Like, how do you play those? I have like some of those are like some of the governments you have to have like a government minder going around with the party, like you know, fouling things up for them and stuff. I mean, it is really fun to play those different kind of dystopian or different law level things that we're not really used to. I mean, that's kind of the thing of speculative science fiction is to kind of take an idea and kind of absurdify it, or like, you know, what if it was a utopia and then stupid Wesley had to step on a sacred plant,
Yes.
and now he's up for capital punishment or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, and I mean, there's different approaches. Like, one of my go-tos is my favorite sci-fi author of all time, Ian M. Banks, and he wrote these stories about the culture. Most of his sci-fi novels are the culture, and really the center piece of it is pretty stable. It's run by artificial intelligence. It's safe. It's boring. It's
Mm-hmm.
on the edges of this expanding government that the excitement happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are other groups to conquer or to teach them the error of their way so that they can be incorporated in the wonderful culture.
Into the wonderful culture.
Yes.
I haven't read them yet, but they've been recommended post scarcity kind of
Yes.
environment.
Post-scarcity, anarchist utopia.
Mm.
It's what I've seen them with the story called. Yeah, those books are great. I love them all.
I have to check them out.
Yeah.
I say that every year because I have a friend who recommends them every year.
It's a lot. It's a lot of material. It's 10 books. So
Oh wow.
to do them all is not a small investment, and they're all very
Mm.
different. And it's not a series. It's not like uh Game of Thrones or something where the story progresses. No, it's really
These are
10.
just random stories from within the world of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then with common aspects to them and built over time. Ian Banks unfortunately died of cancer in 2012 or 2013, and
Mm.
he had written 10 books, and the first one, I believe, Consider Phoebus, was 1987. The last one probably came out 2012, right before he passed away.
Mm.
Think about the changes between 87 and 2012. So he's writing about a speculative future, but
Mm-hmm.
also, we're always inspired by the era in which we live, and things changed a ton between the late 80s and the 2000 teens. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, yeah, I had like in the late 80s I had like a calculator watch that was like my ultimate nerd gadget. Yeah, now like all the stuff that my Fitbit does, is crazy.
yeah,
There's a EKG in there, it's nuts.
yeah, I know. We take it all for granted, but things keep changing, and you see
Mm-hmm.
influences in that series, and you see it in Traveller too, right? So
Right.
things have come come a long way since the initial Little Black books.
Right. Well, people start going, well, what about cyberpunk? Is there,
Yeah.
when William Gibson started coming out, is there a place for that in Traveller? And how do you do that? And yeah, I can't, since it covers all the tech levels, why not?
Yeah.
You could have a cyberpunk adventure. You could have an adventure where even though you're higher tech, it's still a cyberpunk adventure, but it's just in a,
Yeah, many people would disagree. They're like, keep that in Shadowrun or something. But there's there's a there's some of that in Singularity. So watch out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, those all have their place and their strengths. I mean,
Yeah.
you could borrow a lot of things from Shadowrun, like their first. I really like their first edition, like Matrix running description, except that's like takes the Decker out of the game or the other players out of the game while the Decker's doing his thing. That's
Right.
the only downfall to it. But I really like the way they visualize like data structures and how things are metaphors, for what they really are. And
Yeah. Yeah. I played a little bit of Shadowrun in the 90s. I liked the game. And I read several of Gibson's books.
mm-hmm.
Familiar. leery about bringing it into Traveller, but I did. So sorry in advance.
Well, you know what? It's science fiction. Of course, there's going to be hacking. Of course, there's going to be like computer viruses. You know, there's going to be. Again, I tap the popular tropes. You know, people, in my opinion, when they come to a sci-fi game, they're expecting there to be certain things that they have seen in pop culture or whatever, and they are looking forward to doing in the game. And one of those things is going to be like hacking systems, defending systems against hackers, getting into the other guy's ship's computer to get information, or going into like a corporate database and stealing their secret Coke recipe, or whatever. There's all kinds of and the books are just like, to access the computer is easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like, here's all these like programs you can run, the hack computer, hack program, and a intrusion countermeasure program, and blah, 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 blah. That could be a whole developed thing,
Yeah, I think you could take the mechanics I came up with and either use them as written or extrapolate upon them and create a whole other aspect to the game. Or make a difficult electronics computers check.
Right. Right. All right, let's talk about, did you want to talk any more details about like Jordani Consulate?
Well, what I would really like to do is, you said we were going to roll dice.
Yeah, I've got some random questions from my table of amazing questions. Let's do that.
I'm ready.
Get ready. All right.
I don't know if we can see them. There we go.
All right, there we go. All right, let's do a D66 roll, and let me get my chart up here.
I get to make the roll, right?
Oh yeah,
and I'm on the
absolutely.
You just trust that.
Yeah, you make the roll. I trust you.
Okay, here we go.
You're not going to cheat.
No, I never do. Mishaps are much more fun than being successful anyway.
Right.
All right, 13. Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. This is one that actually Matt got too. Wow. What's your dream starship, and what would you name it?
Oh, am I selecting from the available, or do I imagine?
It can be anything in the world. We want Traveller answered, but it could be anything in sci-fi pop culture, I suppose.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I am going to go to Traveller. My dream starship is the Safari ship. I love the Safari ship. I want one. I don't know.
What is it that you like about the Safari ship?
I like the look. First of all, it's badass looking. It's super streamlined looking and cool. It's slightly unusual in that it's got an antenna sticking out of one side on the front, so it's got this kind of slightly super symmetrical but slightly not look to it. It's got the containment tanks. They're multi-environment in which you can alter to store wild beasts that you've captured. It's got the original back from the classic Traveller Adventure Safari ship has a porch on the back that when you're done hunting or whatever you did on the day on some wild planet, you extend a little porch and you sit there and you drink margaritas while enjoying the wild landscape of the alien planet you're on. It's like a luxury ship in a way. It's for it's like a noble. It's like sort of like a yacht with a very specific purpose in mind.
Like a mobile hunting lodge.
Yes, yeah, and I'm personally I'm not a hunter. I don't have any moral judgments about hunting. I think it's great. I fish.
You just collect specimens, or
yeah. If I were a hunter and Traveller, what would I do?
No, I mean, if you with your Safari ship, what do you keep in your containment chambers?
I'll give myself away. I wouldn't be killing things. I'd probably use it to go catch and release or something, or I would be doing scientific missions, capturing and bringing back samples for a zoo or something like that. I don't think I remember the original classic Traveller module has heads on a wall or something like that.
Yeah, no, I was thinking it might be cool to like have a exotic fish tank.
Yeah, one of your two multi-environment tanks, make it an exotic fish tank from a world with very specific environmental.
Bioluminescent fish, or just weird fish, or
The water is, it's not water, it's ammonia or it's
right.
the world.
Don't go in there.
Yeah. Do not swim with the fish unless you wear an HEV suit, and that one bites. So be careful.
What would you name your ship?
Let's see. What's a traveler animal that the class is the leaping snowcat, right? I think that was what they called it. And then I'm trying to think of what a famous animal species is. There's the groat, but that's not a very great name for a ship.
What about like I'm trying to think of like specific snowcats, like lynxes or like
something like that. But how about this? Well, the animal I always remember, the Keon. The Keon is a riding animal, and it looks like it's like a tauntaun kind of from Star Wars. It's sort of avian, sort of like riding an ostrich. So how about the prancing Keon or something like that?
There you go. All right.
My
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool. Let's do another.
Okay. All right. 54.
54. What's your most memorable experience rolling on the Traveller character generation tables?
My most memorable experience. With the group I game with, I've got a horrible reputation, which you know firsthand, is that I join groups, I play 3 times, and I leave, and that's just because I've been too busy with other stuff. But I'm trying to change my ways. However, I tried with the group you're playing with some of those players. I was in. I made a character, and he was the worst friggin' character I have ever rolled. And we were instructed, you have to keep whatever you roll. I mean, I had this idea for him, and the dice just would not help me out. And I think he failed out of 3 or 4 careers. So he never was in one career for more than a 4-year term. And every time it was a mishap on the way out until the last career. So he's like, and he was a mess. Like he had injuries, lose points off your physicals.
Right.
And I just wanted to be the team astrogator, and it took forever for me to get astrogation. I think I ended with astrogation 1, and that was going to be my contribution to the group. And I had hardly any skills, because if you never, in Mongoose Traveller, if you get mishaps every time, you're never getting the chance to be successful. So you're never getting promoted. I wasn't getting any bonus skills. So after he was like 42 years old or something, and had maybe 6 total skill levels, or if that. That was a memorable experience. But I was ready to play him. I thought, screw it, this guy's just going to be a drunk, drug addict loser or something like that. And I'm going to play him up, and over time I'll build up his skills using the training or something.
Right.
So yeah, that was my most memorable experience with the Traveller.
That's awesome. It's fun to just roll with the character sometimes, like some people, they sit down, they want to roll a Marine, and they get a Scholar, and then they're kind of pissed. But sometimes you're just like, hey, just roll with it, see how it goes. My one of my players rolled like the ship's doctor, but he's sickly, ended up with the strength of like 1 or 2 and like a low endurance, and so he plays it up like when they're running, he has to stop and like hit his puffer and like, wait, hold on a second, okay, the other guys are like picking him up and dragging him.
Can you please assist me? I can imagine that. Yeah, the game is designed to be like that. The character generation system is both fun and frustrating. Sometimes you get everything you want too, and feel a little bit of survivor's guilt and super character. But
the pilot in this group, actually, he has every skill pretty much, I think. And I'm like, okay, who's got this? He's like, I have advocate, I have drive a ship, boatsman, or whatever. Yeah. Seafaring, okay.
Yes, seafaring. Yeah. If you're in my campaigns, you know that seafaring. Why don't my players start getting it? I put them in ships and boats and mostly submarines all the time, to the point where they don't want to be on one again. But if they just had seafaring skill, it would have been easier on them.
Mhm.
Get seafaring skill. What is wrong
Yep.
with people?
I don't know. All right, let's do another.
Okay. There we go. 62.
If you had to survive a year on a red zone planet, what's your strategy?
Okay. My strategy. Is it populated? Sometimes they're red zone because
I guess it would depend on why it's red zone, huh?
Yeah.
Let's say horrible disease.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Plague world.
All right. I need my rescue ball kit. What's the adventure? Flatlined. How about run flatline?
Like,
you crashed on a red zone world, and you got the chance to kind of get some stuff together from the ship before it finishes sinking. Definitely want something to protect me from this horrible disease. That would be my goal.
So your rescue ball.
Yeah, and I'd say, can I change that background skill to survival 0, please, Mr. Referee? And he'd say no, and then I guess I would deal with it. Now, I want some stuff to be able to try to counter the environment.
Right, sure.
I could.
So you have to like live as the boy in the plastic bubble, basically, like run around like in a kind of a hamster bubble.
Great 70s reference, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I live in the 70s still. That's what I do about the convoy, like reference.
For my playlists, my 70s playlist is impressive.
All right, so do you want to do another, or you want to wrap it up?
Let's do one more, because this is fun.
All right.
43.
43. What's the most unexpected plot twist you've ever experienced in a Traveller game?
Ooh, unexpected twat. I can't speak. Unexpected twat twist. Plot twist in a game. I guess. Let's see. In a game of Traveller, specifically.
Yes, a game of Traveller.
I'm the referee all the time.
Yeah, I know that's been my issue.
Yeah,
I'm so grateful to be playing with Jeremy.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I was like, I haven't played Traveller since I was a teenager because I've been GMing the whole time.
He had a good one where he played us. I'll give Jeremy credit on this one. He took advantage of the players' willing suspension of disbelief, or maybe it's another metaphor that you should name with. Basically, we had a new group and we got asked by a patron to steal some components of something, and we were being asked to do something criminal, and we probably could have turned it on its head and turned the guy in. It would have been, and then we would have made a contact with law enforcement or something. Instead, we felt compelled to do it, which is kind of like a mistake players make sometimes. And it's a sandbox game. You can say no. We went along and we ended up stealing the parts to a dangerous nuclear weapon, and then we put them on the open market. So we became criminals from the outset. And I remember Jeremy was like, "Yeah, you guys didn't have to do that." And yeah, but that's what you laid out there. And he's like, "Well, yeah, but you have agency, you have choices," which reminds me of when we ran Pirates of Dranax. If you're familiar with that, there's a world called Thieve, and it's run by pirates, and they're the police force of this group called the Widows. And there is we had a story in which a character was obsessed with cybernetics, and she collected them on her body. She was an important NPC to the characters. I won't get into why, but they needed her services. Her DNA was important for something that they were trying to do elsewhere in the campaign. He said, "I'll go along with you, but I want Widow's eyes. I want to install Widow's eyes, and we need to break into the Widow's cloning facility to get them." And that's the worst idea I've ever heard of. But I played the NPC and they went along with it, and 2 of the 3 characters that went in got killed. And afterwards, I heard a conversation between two friends. One of my friends was talking to me about one of the players who died, or who talked about it. He didn't die, actually. And he said, Chris made it sound like he said it was possible to break into the facility. And the other friend said, no, he didn't. He said the NPC said it was possible to break into the facility. You don't believe NPCs. Don't listen to them. And that was exactly right. I wasn't trying to encourage them to break into basically the worst possible, most dangerous place in the galaxy.
Right.
But
they wanted it, they were getting played by the NPC to do it for him.
Yeah, they took the bait. She was insane. You should not listen to what an NPC tells you to do just because it looks like an adventure hook.
Right.
So I guess or playing wise, it would be Jeremy's. My refereeing wise, it was that they took the bait on this thing. I thought, no, you should not go there. But I played the NPC, and the plot twist was they went, and nearly all of them died.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So let's say folks want to follow your work. How do they do that?
So most of it is accessible through Mongoose or Marcosia. And so you would go to mongoosepublishing.com, where I have a number of books, and of course, Drive-Through RPG, all Mongoose's books as well. And you can find my stuff there. I should note that Singularity is being introduced as a Kickstarter. So take a look, or if you're interested in the Singularity campaign, if I've made it interesting enough, Kickstarter.com will be where we initially fund the project. And if you participate there, you will get all the extras that can come along with purchasing the game through that venue.
Right, and the different stretch goals.
The stretch goals, right? There's stretch goals, and there's like foil etched cover or whatever that come along. Special little extras for referees and players alike. So,
right, we'll put a link in the description of the video. It'll be 2 months from now, but
sure, yeah, I got you. Yeah, it may not even be. I don't know whether it'll be out yet. I haven't gotten that yet. When we're going.
What about will the Kickstarter? Will there be an opportunity to participate in the Kickstarter then, though? Yes,
I probably if when this airs on May 5th, people will have the yes. Oh, first, because it's May Day. May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. Yes, celebrating something else that day.
I will be drinking más cervezas on that day.
Yeah. So actually, it'll probably maybe just be coming out then. So this our May 1st discussion will be very timely for that.
Awesome.
And then Marcosia.com. It's probably Marcosia Publishing where the comics are. And by the time this airs, both Riftbreaker 2 and Far Trader 4 should be out. So, and that's a whole series. The Far Trader 4 is the end of that first miniseries. Riftbreaker 2 will be half done, and moving on to the third and fourth issues of that.
Fantastic. Did we cover everything you wanted to touch on?
We sure did. Yeah, and
awesome.
more. And
fantastic.
Yeah. And some.
Thanks for being
some that we didn't.
Thanks for being a good sport with the random questions there at the end.
Very fun.
And yeah, thanks for your participation. You've been super nice to me, and thanks again, for participating in the game shows and stuff last year. That was fun.
Oh yeah, and for inviting me. That was fun.
Yeah. So all right, man. Well, thanks, Chris, and everybody. I've been enjoying this interview with my friend Chris Griffen, and we wish him all the best in his new adventure over in jolly old England.
Thank you.
So have fun and
tell you how much I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. Well, cheers, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then. Thanks, Frank.
You're welcome. Thank you. Don't fly solo through the galaxy. Click like to join our alliance. Subscribe for your crew pass, and enable notifications to never miss an encounter. This journey is fueled by my patrons. Thank you, patrons. Feel the thrill of discovery. Become a patron and join the adventure.